This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, Happy New Year. Hope you had an enjoyable and relaxing holiday break. I don't know about you, but I loved all the memes and the stuff that I saw on social media over the last week or so about sort of taking time to take a break, to recharge, intentionally lowering your productivity. Lots of memes of, people sitting around the house in their PJs, drinking hot chocolate and all that stuff. And that's great. I think that's fantastic. I think it's so important for us as professionals, as PR practitioners, writers, communicators, to really take that time for self-care. We typically run at the pace that our audience runs at. And really our audience, when you think about it, is the reporters that we work with. I just had this conversation today with a reporter. He wrote to me and asked me, "Are you working today?" And I said, "I'm always working because you're working. If you're working, I'm working." But hope you did have some time to rest and relax, to do those things that you want to do in your private life, which is great because we got a big year ahead of us. It's always an exciting time of year, I think, for me, because it's just that opportunity time, right? Anything can happen. And not that we're wishing for anything to happen this year, because we've had plenty of anything happening for the last 2 years with COVID. So we don't hope that anything happens, but we also hope we you take advantage of all the terrific opportunities that lay before us here in 2022. All right, enough babbling from me. Let's get right on to our guest. We have a terrific one to start the new year. Let's get right into it. Ashley R. Cummings is a freelance writer specializing in commerce, marketing, and SaaS. Her philosophy is simple: create content that's interesting, optimized for search, and that is conversion driven. Boy, if that's not having all your priorities in order, I don't know what is. So let's get right to the conversation. Ashley, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Tell us about you and your business and a little bit about what we talked about in that intro there.
Yeah, you bet. So like you said, my name is Ashley Cummings. I've been a freelance writer for a little over 10 years now. I specialize in long form content. So I mostly write the blogs and the ebooks, the reports, anything that, takes a long time to read, but you can dive deep into. I primarily write for e-commerce and marketing SaaS companies. So that can mean anything from like Salesforce to like email marketing companies like Campaign Monitor or Omnisend. I do a lot of writing in the marketing, influencer marketing, and content marketing worlds as well. So I write for #paid, different places like that. But yeah, it's been a great career for me, and it's flexible, it's timely, so I can work and hang out with my family, and it's been great.
That's terrific. Let's talk a little bit about SaaS, because I think it's one of those acronyms that is, has shown up in the last couple of years, and maybe not everybody knows what it is. Could you just do a little explainer for us and why it's important as a market for you to tap into?
Yeah, absolutely. So SaaS stands for software as a service. So it's anything that there's all sorts of different SaaS companies, but it's essentially any software tool that helps businesses run more efficiently. And then, that can mean anything from, something to help programmers, something to help financial companies. The kind that I specialize in is the kind that an e-commerce company would use. So something or a marketing SaaS tool that a business might use to help them market more efficiently. So like something like Shopify would be a SaaS tool. But yeah, it's basically writing and helping people understand why those SaaS tools are going to help their business grow, work more efficiently, and just essentially be able to get things done a little bit better.
And tell us why you decided to jump into that. I mean, this is an area that really has taken off in the last couple of years. What makes it appealing to you, and how can people use it and use it better, in your opinion?
Yeah, so for me, I have a background. My background is essentially in And it's actually kind of diversified, but most relevant to this conversation is marketing. And I actually, when I started writing, I was writing for a marketing agency that they essentially did SEO. And then I started writing for some different e-commerce tools, but eventually it kind of morphed into me writing for marketing companies that, not marketing companies, but marketing tools that help companies grow. So one of the first companies that I wrote for, not one of the first, but the first Saas tools that I wrote for was Campaign Monitor. They're an email service provider, something like MailChimp or Constant Contact. And what they do is they help companies with their email marketing. They help automate it. They help make it possible to make dynamic content, to segment their lists, different things like that. And so from there, I just kind of got interested in SaaS and all these different tools that are available to businesses to help them automate and to help them scale and to help them just grow their businesses a lot more efficiently than if they were to use manual processes or to go it alone. And so that became super interesting for me to write about. It's also a great place as far as like a niche where people are spending money. so that was good for me. I mean, it's fun to write about food, it's fun to write about travel, but when you write about tech and when you're writing about software, there's a little bit more opportunity to grow as a writer and to make a little bit more money. So that was that was a motivating factor for me as well.
And do you find that people are really desiring written content? I mean, I guess they are, right? Or you wouldn't be in business. But tell us about sort of the importance that you're seeing for written content. And like you said, the long form written content that you specialize in.
Yeah, you bet. So this is kind of a loaded question. So I hope it's okay if I just talk at you for a minute. But I certainly love all types of content and, TikTok fan, all sorts of video content. But written content really is one of the most critical parts of an effective content marketing strategy. Essentially, written content, it's one of the marketing tools that you have to engage customers, generate leads, and lead customers down the purchasing funnel. So there's, as I mentioned before, there are several different kinds of written content that businesses can invest in, and all of them serve kind of a slightly a different purpose. So for example, a case study, it's an excellent tool to show potential customers how your products and services help clients. Usually it helps them show how they've overcome challenges, how they implemented your particular SaaS solution or product, whatever it might be, and then how to achieve measurable results. So something like a case study is a great way. It's a great, almost like a sales tool that you can use to say, hey, this is what previous customers have done. These are the exact measurable results that they've seen, and this is how our business is helping them grow, helping their company grow. And then it's fun for me. I love to conduct case studies because I get to dive deep with the customers that have used some of my clients' products or tools and experienced tremendous success. I mentioned before that I work with some different email service providers. I've written a lot of case studies actually for Omnisend, and it's cool to be able to interview one of their clients and just see the results that they've seen after implementing the SaaS tools. I guess first the challenges that they were experiencing before implementing the SaaS tool, and then how after they were able to segment their customer lists and just start engaging customers more effectively right away after starting to use some of their tools and automations. So that's one tool. Another like type of written content that's super important that all customers should invest in are blogs and articles. And I probably spend the bulk of my time writing blogs and articles. But the first thing that it helps is it helps you establish your brand as an industry leader. So it gives you an opportunity to share your expertise on relevant topics and then offer in-depth insight around a topic that really people can't find elsewhere. So I guess to give you an example, I'm one of the writers for #paid. It's #paid. It's a creator marketing platform, and they connect brand with popular creators. So it's kind of like an influencer marketing and brand, like I guess tool that helps them connect with each other. But the posts that we write, they're super timely, they're well researched, they include examples from brands, from creators and experts that are seeing growth. And then, so when someone is interested in creator marketing, or if they're a DTC brand that wants to grow, or an e-commerce brand, and they go to the hashtag paid blog, they'll get high-end insight on what they can do to build their brand through creator marketing. They'll get examples of how other brands have made it work, and recent updates, things that are happening in that world. And that's just one example, but brands that invest in these high-end articles, it really can help establish them as an industry leader and help them stand out of the crowd. And besides that, it's also a stellar way to keep customers on your website engaged in your content, and also keep them incentivized to keep coming back for more. So I actually like to use the example of two of the biggest blogs that I like in my space. So for example, if you want to learn something about e-commerce, you're going to go to the Shopify blog and the Big Commerce blogs. Both of them have stellar writers. They have like really in-depth research. It's all super timely. And it's kind of become a place or a hub where people can go time and time and again to learn how they can build their business, how they can use these tools, and what they can do to build their business. And then I think the result of that is that when these customers, they do need additional tools and services to build their business, they've been reading that content for months and months, and they're likely to start where it's familiar. They're gonna go where they've been getting excellent advice, and they'll start, they'll invest in Shopify and BigCommerce. So it's a great way to engage your customers and to help familiarize them with your brand over and over, I guess.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, and
yeah,
you can tell how passionate you are, right? The one thing that I keyed in on there was how the different varieties of writing, right, content that there are, the different types of content written content that you can use, but also making sure that you are writing from an informed point of view. And you mentioned research. How much research are you doing? Because you're working with clients, right? You're constantly learning about their business. Same, PR, we're all always learning about someone else's business, a client's business, to better understand it, and then to do what the client hired us to do. But let's talk a little bit about your process of researching and getting to know the subject matter, so that you can then produce an original piece of content that is going to achieve the goal they want to achieve. Yeah,
you bet. Research probably takes up the bulk of the time of what I do. And there's two different ways that I research. First is when I research a new client, like when I'm onboarding a new client, it takes a lot of time to learn how their SaaS tool works, what their SaaS tool does, who their audience is, where they fit in the industry, what their competitors are doing, and also to go in and to start writing expertly for a software essentially takes a lot of upfront work. And when my process for that is usually I dive right in. I talk to their company. I always have a kickoff call, and I try to ask as many relevant questions as possible to find out what they're doing, what they want in their writing, how they fit in the industry, and then I read what they've written basically religiously. It takes a lot of time to dive in and just learn what they do. A lot of times I'll actually demo or use the product just to see how it works and what problems it's fixing and whatnot. So that's what I do when I get a new client. I typically, like, when I get a new client, because it's such a big investment, and because the industry that I work in, it does require that hefty lifting at the beginning. I usually require that the client enters a contract and we establish a long-term relationship. But then as far as an article, the research process is a little bit different. And again, it depends on what kind of content that I'm writing. But for a blog post, for example, I would say that one thing that I'm doing is I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly reading the industry reports that are coming out. I'm constantly reading conversations and participating on conversations that are happening on LinkedIn and Twitter. And then I also spend a lot of time combing through original data. So I write a lot of reports. So a lot of times clients will just send me like, hey, we've conducted this study. Here's the, not necessarily the raw data, but here are the numbers crunched, turn this into a report. And so there's a lot of different things that I do to research when I'm writing an article and when I'm creating a report, but it all kind of boils down to just keeping up on the conversation, understand what's happening, reading other industry blogs, interviewing professionals, and just gathering as much information as possible to make sure that I'm current on the trends and know what's going on in the industry.
It's got to be, though, like reading multiple books simultaneously, which I'm not a terrific reader. I read a lot of stuff, a lot of short stuff, newspapers and magazines. I consume a lot of stuff, but I'm a really bad long form reader. You've got to be an incredible long form reader, I would imagine, right?
I do a lot of reading. My book reading, I try to save my book reading time. Like it's kind of like, I try to save that for, fiction and nonfiction and more of the literary stuff, which is also important for a writer to do. But yeah, I spend a lot of time reading, a lot of blogs, a lot of books that are coming out. But
and are you then sort of, are you grabbing all that information and kind of compartmentalizing it or taking notes, or go through your process? Right? You're reading all this stuff, and then how are you formulating what your final product is?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what I'm writing, but usually when I'm reading, I like to keep a swipe file. So essentially, there's different topics that I'm always writing about. So I'm always writing about e-commerce. I'm always writing about marketing. I'm always writing about different tools that will help e-commerce and e-commerce and DTC businesses grow. And so anytime I'm reading something like that, and then I usually keep a file that just has relevant information that I know that I'm going to use in an article later. It could be like a report, it could be stats, it could be it could even be like an expert that I've connected with on Twitter or that's published a great article or something. So I just keep a swipe file so that I have that information handy. Sometimes my process can be lazy, and I can be like, oh, I'm going to save this to my desktop because I know that I'm going to use this in an article. But for the most part, I try to keep everything like together and in a swipe file with different topics. So it's a little bit more organized.
Is there an average amount of time that you give yourself to go from zero to finished product on any long, let's say a blog, right? You're writing a blog on a new topic. How quickly are you churning something like that out in? Is it a week? Is it 10 days? Is it less?
Yeah, most of what I write, I usually write a minimum of about 3,000 words. So give or take, it depends on the client and what they want. But for the most part, I write the longer form articles that have a lot of interviewing. Sometimes they review case studies, they review data, different things like that. So typically, I mean, I spend a lot of time gathering and researching information, but when I sit down to write, it's usually about a 4 to 5 day process. Just putting it all together.
That long? Okay, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it takes a while. I kind of have a process for it too. Usually I'll pitch my topic, and then I'll gather all the information that I've read about the topic, and then I create what I like to call a dump doc. And that basically just dump everything that I've learned in there. And then from there, I'll draw up an outline, and I'll be like, okay, this isn't relevant or this is relevant. And then I can take that research and put it into my outline. And then from there I write. But yeah, it takes a while to write that. And when I say 4 to 5 days, I should mention that I typically don't ever write longer than 4 hours a day, just because after that my brain is fried.
Your brain starts to go, right?
Yeah. Exactly. From that, yeah. So it's not like 4 days of writing for 24 hours, It's about 4 hours, and then I go, have a normal life.
But I also don't think that I was going to make a generalization, but I'll say it anyway. I'm not sure that people appreciate how long it takes to write something like that, from the initial stages of learning about the thing, educating yourself about the thing, the interviews, the research, the formulation, and then the final product. right? It really takes quite a long period of time to write something that is going to go. I mean, let's say it's a blog or, like you said, a long form piece that's going to sit somewhere and hopefully attract both eyeballs and action, right? And going back to the way what we introduced you about in terms of optimizing for search and being conversion driven, are there I don't want to say tips and tricks, but like, are there ways that you do go about optimizing for search or making something that you write conversion driven? I mean, is it as much as just a hyperlink to a product or, something similar like that? Or is there something more to it?
There's definitely more to it. Usually, I mean, optimizing for search is definitely, it's part of something that a writer does. Usually when I work with a client, I require that they, or hope at least, that they have an SEO on their team, because it takes a little bit of collaboration. As far as what I do, I don't do a lot of the in-depth keyword research and stuff like that. There's usually an SEO team behind that that's saying, hey, these are the keywords that we're targeting. These are the topics that we're going for. These are the content pillars that we want. And then for me, from there, I take that and I try to, I do a little bit of research around search intent. And then I optimize throughout. I kind of have a little process that I follow as I optimize an article for search. Search engine optimization is interesting too, because it changes a lot. Like what works and what doesn't work changes a lot depending on what Google is doing with their algorithm. And then it's kind of interesting now too. This is kind of a topic for a whole nother conversation where you could get an SEO in here, but I mean, the kind of content Google favors often isn't always necessarily the best content that's out there with the best advice. And it'll be interesting, I think, to see what's happening with people start with, Web 3.0 and people starting different projects. And there's a lot of new newsletters that are going out and a lot of new blogs and just like media blogs that are coming up. I think it'll be interesting to see, I guess, what happens in terms of like newsletters and new platforms as opposed to Google. But for now, I mean, Google is the industry leader still, and you kind of have to play by their rules still if you want that visibility, and it's a long game. So yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, yeah, it totally does. And great segue into kind of where is the future of written content going? I mean, since you're in the middle of it, what do you see the trends or the mile markers, the indications of where written content will go in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, written content, I think it's basically, I mean, it's more important now than ever, and it will continue to be this way. The more that we continue to become more of a digital and a virtual society, the more that, words on the internet or videos on the internet, basically anything that's digitally based is going to become more and more important to how businesses run. And I like to use the example too of, I mean, if you just take e-commerce companies with the pandemic, essentially, I mean, retailers that had never even considered going online were kind of forced to go online. And with that comes, okay, well, all of a sudden we need an online presence. We need people to be able to find us. We need product description pages that are good. We need content that's good. We need people to be able to find us online. And so, I mean, really every brand, every business needs to be investing in their written content and making sure that they're writing engaging content. Another thing that's interesting right now, I think, is building communities, and there's several different ways to do that, but definitely using written content to bring people together and to be engaged online and there's a lot of different ways that can go, and I'm not sure yet, to be honest, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2020 and moving forward.
Well, we will definitely be watching, and we'll check in with
Right?
you as the year unfolds, since
sure.
you're on the cutting edge of this stuff. This is a great conversation, Ashley. Thank you so much. We're going to segue now into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast, where we steal a page from inside the Actor Studio and ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, gut reaction, maybe a laugh or two. So Ashley, with your indulgence, Here we go. Rapid fire question. Number 1, what is your favorite news source?
The Hustle.
Oh, I don't know that one. Elaborate.
They're kind of like the morning brew. I was trying to decide if I was going to say the Morning Brew or the Hustle, but the Hustle's a little bit more up and coming. And they just sent out a newsletter that's has just like fun. Sometimes they're funny, like quick takes on what's happening. A lot of times it's related to what I'm doing. So, but it's fun. You should check it out.
Yet another email that I'm going to have to subscribe to. I must
Right?
get about 50 of them every morning,
I know,
but I love them anyway. I'd rather delete than not know. So the
Right.
Hustle, I will put that one on my list. Rapid fire question number 2. What is your favorite social media platform?
I should say Twitter since I'm a writer, but I have to go with TikTok. It's fun.
And where can we find you on TikTok?
Oh, so I'm not very active. I'm kind of a lurker, but I'm planning this year to grow my following and talk a little bit more about freelance writing. But it's just my name. It's Ashley R. Cummings.
All right, we will definitely
Same with
subscribe
Twitter.
there as well. I'm a bit of a
Cool.
lurker myself. I think I have like 3 or 4 posts up there, and they're not even that good. I'm not much of a
Right.
TikTok guy, but maybe that's something that I should resolve to do in the new year.
Right. I'm thinking that's going to be a good place for me. But I spend probably most of my professional time on Twitter, but my fun time's on TikTok.
Sounds good to me. Rapid fire question number 3: coffee or alcohol?
Can I say like fizzy water, like a LaCroix? I'm not much of a coffee or alcohol, but I'm certainly I'm like a fizzy drink kind of person. I like soda. I like fizzy water.
I am the same. I am a seltzer. I'm a flavored seltzer guy. When I stopped drinking 3 years ago, I discovered, I started drinking seltzer. I had no idea how many flavored seltzers there were out there.
Right? I know, it's wonderful. I love it.
So if you open up my refrigerator, you see it at any one time, several 6-packs of flavored seltzer.
Delicious.
All right. Rapid fire question number 4. What's your favorite on the run food?
Ooh, cheeseburger.
Oh, good one. Any particular place?
There's a place where I'm from called JCW's. It's only in Salt. Well, it's in Utah. There's about 4 of them, but they make a delicious on-the-go burger.
All right, we're gonna have to check it out. Rapid fire question number 5: what do you want to be after you finish this career?
Ooh, I'll probably be a writer forever, but hopefully once I'm done writing about business, I'll I hope to just write poetry and books and just kind of sit on the beach with my pen and write words.
That sounds good to me. Well,
Right.
Ashley, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Yeah, my website is www.ashleyrcummings.com, and Twitter, like I mentioned before, Twitter is probably the best place to interact with me, and my handle is just at Ashley R. Cummings.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again, Ashley. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.